What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Daily Groomer Podcast. I'm your host, Alex Martin, and today we've got a husband and wife combo coming at you live, a little 1-2 punch. We have got Dana and Jordan Hunt of Bathewell Mobile Pet Spa. They are out of Tulsa, Oklahoma, with 6 locations and 8 employees. I've brought them on today to talk all sorts of things about how you grow your mobile business, how you can scale from 1 vans to several to even 6 where they're at now, how to prep for taking breaks like pregnancies and even maybe retirement. And then on top of that, how to run a business as a husband and wife duo where finance can come into play. Jordan's got a background in finance, so I'm super excited to have him here today to talk a little bit about that as well. Guys, that was a big intro. Thanks so much for joining us here. As you can tell, I'm pretty excited for the episode, but I want to hand it over to you guys. Throw me back 4 years ago. How the heck did this thing come to be?
Well, I just want to, one thing before we go any further. It is Bathewell Mobile Pet Spa.
I knew it. I was sitting here before the podcast going through making sure I could pronounce everything okay, and that was the one thing that I forgot to ask.
It's okay. It's okay. I just if that does come up, I just always correct people because I know that I would want somebody to tell me. So it is Bathewell, but
well, I appreciate you because I would have gone the whole podcast referring to it as Bathewell.
Yeah, we can get into the name. So since we're talking about origin stories, when I decided to open up this company, I had such a hard time figuring out names. And
we had a lot of names, but all of them were worse than the last one we came up with. I mean, they were.
And I would just, anytime I had a thought, I would write it down, and then I'd go back through it, and I'm just like, these all are terrible. And then I always shopped at this clothing store called Madewell. Like, they're like my favorite jeans. And I was like, could we do a play on words? Bathe well, we bathe well. I was like, and I wrote it down, and we kept going back to it. And I was like, let's do it. Like, that sounds perfect. And now in Tulsa, people just say Bathewell, and they know that they're talking about like a mobile.
I honestly love it. I love it, and I feel so dumb for mispronouncing it because there's an obvious E there, but I'm looking in the corner of my Google screen, and it's just so small, and I was reading fast. There's an obvious E there, and I love that. I don't know what category you call like made up words like Google and like Bing, where like they can kind of stand alone. And I love that you're right. Like Bathewell can so stand alone.
Yeah, I think that was like one of the driving things where we were like, that's it. Like, because we wanted, when I opened this, like I didn't anticipate it growing as fast as it did. But I did know that I wanted Bathewell to kind of be a household name in Tulsa. So, when people said Bathewell, they're like, oh, I get my dog groomed with Bathewell. I have Bathewell groomers,
I also like that it's kind of got like a classy ring to it. And like your logo definitely like shows that it's like kind of like eloquent, right? Like,
yeah,
it's not like classy. Like it doesn't sound like I'm going to drop off like my dirty dog at, right? It just sounds like I'm showing up, and it's going to be like very like, boutique and like very nice.
Yes, I definitely agree. I like to use a British accent. Bathewell Mobile Pet Spa sounds real classy. That's what a lot of the girls say it like that.
Yeah, we have a few British friends here in Tulsa, and that's kind of how they pronounce it. So,
Bathewell Mobile Pet Spa.
You know what you need to do? You need to get one of those British friends to do your guys' voicemail. Welcome to Bathewell.
Oh, we should ask. That's honestly a really good idea.
No, I love it. Okay, so 4 years ago, you were trying to pick out a name, Dana. Jesse, fill me in a little bit. Jordan, fill me in a little bit. Like, where were you at? Were you guys kind of going at this together? Or Jordan, were you working a day job? Like, what was kind of the vibes there?
It was kind of the perfect storm. We were in Oklahoma City. I took in a job there to, grow. The firm I was at was relatively smaller, and it was a big opportunity for Oklahoma City. And we both were kind of like, this is what adults do. We get jobs in bigger cities and move. And so we did. And for me, the job just was not working out the way I wanted to. I'm not just that crazy about Oklahoma City. I love Tulsa. If you've ever been here, it's a weird place. And I like the way that Tulsa's weird. I tell a lot of people it's as big as you want the city to be or as small as you want it to be. You can stay in your little bubble, or you can expand out and just see kind of a lot of what they have to offer. But I ended up taking a job back in Tulsa. And, we really didn't have a plan. I mean, there was an idea of mobile, well, not even mobile, of a business. And then mobile was floated around, but you can probably speak to like where it kind of started.
Yeah. And then we had talked about like, we had settled on mobile because I worked for a mobile company in Oklahoma City. And I was like, I really do love this, but I was like, do I want to own a business? Like, and then we really sat down and we thought about it and we were like, you know what? Yeah, I want to do my own thing. I think that that's kind of where I'm at now. And so we moved back and we were like, do we just buy a new rig? Do we get something used? What are we going to do? And we just decided, you know what? I haven't done a lot of maintenance on things. I think I feel more comfortable just investing in a brand new rig so that I feel comfortable. And that's what we did. And we did it at the beginning of 2020.
Yeah, we put the order in before COVID had really started to take national headlines. So our rig was built it was built and then finally being, I guess, processed. It's been the final stages when COVID really kind of blew up.
Mm-hmm.
And so that actually, I think it delayed us 1 or 2 weeks.
It did.
So at the time, that's
what that looked like pre-COVID. Like, obviously, it feels like COVID was yesterday, even though it was, 3.5 years ago now. And obviously mobile has just like, freaking exploded because of COVID. It's so hard to get a van now. Vans are so expensive, right? Like all that sort of stuff. What was it like then when you guys were looking at the vans?
Well, I mean, when we ordered it and built it, everything was great. I mean, this is happening. We're getting a rig. We're going to start X date. But as COVID got worse and or headlines got worse, it like bled over to like real life because the van was delayed at least 1, if not 2 weeks. Not even including like our travel arrangements to even get there. And I can't remember, but that might have been why we ended up driving to go get it. Like we drove up there. So Tulsa to Granger, Indiana is 14 hours.
11 to 14. Yeah. And we had planned on flying and then we're just renting a car going there and then driving it back. And we were like, well, I really don't want to fly right now. Cause like, we didn't know anything that was like, we didn't know. It was all so foreign to us. And so I was like, well, we'll just rent a car, drive up there. And that's what we did. We left on like early Saturday morning. We drove up. They left the van outside with the keys in it. We weren't able to do orientation because they weren't doing that. And I was like, well, I'm glad that I've worked in one of these vans before, And so I got the keys. They had a special spot for them. I got the keys and then we literally drove back.
Yeah. I think it was 20, I want to say it was 28 hours on the road or like traveling in a 32-hour period.
I mean, you guys didn't need any orientation. You had plenty of time in that thing.
Yeah, I could have just watched videos. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's too funny. I have 2 questions before we move on from that.
Okay.
One, you kind of alluded to it, Dana, but I wanted to make sure we covered it. Why did you pick mobile?
Because it's a one-on-one experience.
Okay.
I felt like I could make the amount of money that I needed to make and groom less dogs because for me, I wanted the one-on-one experience with the dogs and with the clients. And I don't want to groom 8 to 12 dogs a day. I want to groom 3 to 4 dogs a day. So that was my biggest thing with mobile.
Got it. No, I mean, that makes sense. You can charge a little bit more. You have a little bit more control over your calendar.
Mm-hmm.
But part of it too, at least like pushing more towards mobile, was like the rigidity of getting a shop. Like I think it's a little more serious. I know that you have, if you don't have the capital, you got to get a loan to get a rig. But if you get a commercial lease, those are at minimum 1 year, but that's not realistic. Commercially, it's 2 to 5.
Right.
And it's like at the time, we don't know if this is going to work out. Like if we get a rig and it doesn't work out, you could sell it and only be out whatever the difference was. But and then there's just a lot of differences for mobile versus in a shop. A shop is going to be lower unless it's a top trophy competitor groomer. It's going to be a lower revenue per client.
Mm-hmm.
And then mobile, like Dana's talking about, it's less dogs. It's just you. It's a little more focused.
Yeah, I mean, they both got their pros and cons, but for what you guys were going after, mobile definitely seemed like the option. When you guys decided to make that push, I know, Jordan, you're sitting here kind of weighing the risks of both too. Like what's, hey, let's say that this isn't for us after a year. What's kind of our like exit strategy here with the van, or the rig rather? You could just sell it and be out the difference. How did you guys look at, financing the van, right? Was it financed through the seller? Was it something that you guys just paid up all front for and you just thought, hey, this is going to be our big investment? Talk to me about like kind of the thought process through that, because it's all like new and scary at that time.
Yeah, so that's it's a good question, and I've had like I'm active on like Facebook, like some of those mobile grooming things, because there's pretty technical questions and then like kind of starter questions, and a lot of them come down to like financing and or like how you buy one, whatnot. I've always been like this, but I've known my banker way before I get a loan. My first car loan was like $2,500 from a banker that I just went to high school with. But I had a relationship, and I was in a position where I had a relationship with a banker that I had met probably in December or January. And I took him out and like laid out, hey, this is what we want to do. I think it'll be successful. And because of that personal relationship, he pushed through a loan. Like we came up with some money, we put a down payment down.
Mm-hmm.
But at the time, if you were paying cash, I don't know if it was a great idea. Like the loans we were getting were, I think our lowest was like 4%, which is a really low rate.
Yeah, that's amazing.
If you finance through Wagon Tails, I think at the time it was like 8 to 10.
Okay.
I think now it's like 10 to 12, and that's a huge difference.
For
That's
sure.
hundreds of dollars. That's more dogs per month. I mean, it's much more expensive.
Right. And I'm sure for you being, all over the numbers, and you're right, like doing everything on the dogs per month basis, you're at the difference between 9-10% and 4%. Doesn't seem like much when you're looking at a piece of paper that's like, okay, 4% and 9%. But when you start weighing down, like, hey, that means you're going to have to do, X amount of dogs more per month just to break even, it starts to get a little bit more real.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's super interesting. So now with your guys' first van, you went through your personal relationship. For the next 5, was it the same kind of deal, or did you start to get a little bit smarter or niftier or
We've kept with the rate of growth, we haven't been able to like fully buy one out. We've gotten close, but like we financed them. It's been cheap this whole time to do it.
Yeah, instead of buying one out, you're taking that cash and putting a down deposit down on the next. And
it's been pretty quick. It's 4 years, and what is that? 1.5 a year, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like before you're even a year in, we got another one. I think we got the first one. Did we get 2 in 20, or was it right after?
We got 2 in 20.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been kind of like
that first year you guys got 2.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And we can talk a little bit more about that. If you want more of the finance stuff, we can talk about that. But like the growth of that.
Let's jump into like, okay, the first section of growth. 2 in the first year is pretty bonkers, because not only are you like, I'm sure there's enough demand right out of the gate, but for you guys to swing hard enough for, okay, we should go get a second van and get a second, I would imagine you had your second thing groomer, unless Jordan, you picked up the sticks and started figuring it out right away.
No.
You'd be.
I can drive them. I can drive them.
Yeah. Okay. So walk me through that initial growth spurt.
So, we filled up in the matter of about 2 months, and I was full. It was just me, and I was like, okay.
How did you do that?
Word of mouth.
Well, so I guess back step though, we had thought about this. Nothing had been concrete, but we were telling people we were going to move back to Tulsa.
Okay.
And they knew that Dana groomed, and every single person we talked to was like, I want to be first on your list. And so after like, I don't know, the 20th person had said that, it's like, we have a viable option here.
Yeah, you got business.
But yeah, the word of mouth too. You can go ahead.
Yeah, that was the biggest thing. We couldn't afford really to wrap the vans, and during COVID time, I didn't really want to like drive around like, look, I'm grooming dogs. I wanted just like this white incognito van.
Yeah.
So
there may or may not have been a ban of all services like that was instituted here in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
We may or may not have followed that ban.
So
what's crazy though is like thinking back on this, most people like, one of the easiest marketing levers that you could pull as a mobile is like, okay, wrap your van, like make sure it's nice, make sure your number's big and brash on there, right? But I love that you guys, for different reasons, but out of the gate, like, nope, incognito van.
Yeah, well,
we're still incognito.
yeah, it's part of
Still?
honestly, it's part of the allure, it's part of the marketing, and that kind of helped explode our growth. Tulsa's it's like I was saying, it's small, and there's in COVID, a lot of people were home. So you see a big white van go up to your neighbor's house, you're curious, what is that? If you got a plumbing sign on there, you know that the plumber's there. But if you see that van coming, once every 2 weeks or whatever, the referrals come from neighbors saying, "Hey, what was that?" And they ask, or
Guys, I don't know if that's evil or evil genius. That is the craziest thing I've ever heard. So your 6 vans right now are all unwrapped.
Unwrapped. They're all white.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you right now,
from
God. Working in vans that were wrapped versus working in vans that were not wrapped, as a woman, I feel far safer. Because you're not having, because I'd have people literally open the door on me. And it's fine. I want to talk to everybody. I want to I want to groom your dog, but I can't talk to you while I'm in the middle of grooming a dog.
Oh yeah.
So, there was serious advantages. It wasn't just like, we're just going to be incognito, but I was like, for the safety, and all my stylists are like, I do like that they're not wrapped. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, we haven't had a need to wrap them. So I guess we probably just won't.
Yeah, like as long as you guys don't have a need, right? You're not like, I don't want to say no, anyone's begging for customers, but like your books are full and like you've had no problem with word of mouth referrals, all that sort of stuff, right? So it's like, if it does offer other benefits like safety, a little bit of cost savings, that sort of stuff, I guess might as well. But that is, I thought I've heard a lot and seen a lot running this, but that is one thing I've never heard. And like I've heard of people not wrapping their vans like because they just haven't got around to it or whatever. But I love how intentional it is. That's amazing.
Yeah, I like it a lot. And then, so just to jump back to like getting to that second van.
Yeah.
Jordan and I sat down because the inquiries just like kept coming in, and I would get home from work at like 6:37. I was like, because I had like a schedule. I was like, I would groom from this time to this time, and then I would spend an hour after work just going through all my text messages, responding to people, figuring out like, is this the right fit for you? Sending our intake form to them, and then booking people. It's been, so you know how it is with new businesses. I mean, you work 12-hour days, and then it got to this point where I was just like, okay, I'm just gonna have to put everybody on a wait list. And when we decided, a
really long wait list.
And tell me, I mean, even just
one tip is to not do a very long wait list.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I'm just saying, if somebody's watching, don't do it because it doesn't work out. Just keep people there and say as soon as you have availability, then you announce it.
Yeah, I'll announce it. Keep an eye out. I'll announce it because you'll get like a really long wait list, and then you'll reach out to all of those people, and then they've all found new groomers.
Right. I mean, they needed one within the week, right?
Right.
Exactly. So
where did you decide to cut it? Did like, and even like to your guys' current day business with 6, when you went from 3 to 4, 4 to 5 vans, what's kind of that magic number that you guys have found that it's like, okay, once we've got, I'm going to make this up, but once we've got 20 new clients sitting aside that we do not have room for, we go open up another van. Is there a magic number like that?
I would say it's not like that. The slowest like to fulfill rate was probably the first van, and that was 2 months.
Sort of. So so I took this class called $1 Million Mobile, and I would recommend that, and they do it at Pet Pro, and I would recommend that to anybody who wants to dip their toes in to mobile. And Patsy does a great job of teaching this, and she's a monthly maintenance grooming service, which is what, after I took that class, we adopted that. So all of our clients are monthly. So I know we roughly have to have about 50 clients, roughly 50 dogs per van per month. And we have boards. We have big dry erase boards that have each, because we work 4-day weeks. We have, so that's 16 days. So there's 16 blocks, and we have every client in little blocks, and we can like move them around for like routing and stuff like that. But that's kind of when we know we're full. And we start putting them on there. And I mean, when I'm starting to rebook people and there's not any room around 4 to 5 weeks, I'm like, okay, let's hold off on taking new clients for a while, regroup, get everything organized, and then go from there.
I mean, that is crazy, but I really like the idea. I'm a visual learner myself, and I really like the idea of the big blocks and the big board up in front for you guys to kind of see that. And that's interesting that, Jordan, you said the hardest or the longest rather fulfill was that first van. So ever since then, it's just been, you fill up that board and then it's like, okay, next one.
Well, the board is we've been doing this now for a while. The board's new-ish. We weren't doing that on day one, but I would say that like the lead time to we add a van, nervous, we got this new payment,
a new stylist that we just trained.
It's still kind of we've learned we have longer probation like periods, or like I guess that's just what it's called, but they fill up a lot faster now, and it's not like, hey, we'll get this new van and people will just show up.
Right.
But we have a little bit. We know that it's going to be almost full when we launch, and then when we do. But I'd say the lead time has gone from whatever it was, 2 to 3 months, to now it's probably closer to like at the shortest, immediately. I think that's happened once when we added one. It was like immediately full, but now it's closer to like 3 to 6 weeks. So after we add it, 3 to 6 weeks, that van's full.
Okay.
We've already had discussions about getting another one, but we have a even bigger delivery, like we talked about before.
That's true.
In October.
Yeah.
So I actually do want to dive into that. That was my next thing, not the bigger delivery.
Okay.
We'll get there.
Okay.
But this next process. So you guys have done this, 6 times now, essentially, right? I mean, or 5 times of like successing, okay, we need another one. And I want to really understand, because I'm sure it's changed, but I'm sure you have a better idea of what works and what doesn't now, into this process of what it's like to get another van. So we've kind of been talking about like what that signal looks like, that it's time to get another one. But now let's act on that. Okay, so it's Monday, August 19th. We, all 3 of us spent the weekend and we're like, okay, it's time to get another one.
Mm-hmm.
What's the first thing we do all the way till launch day of that next van? Walk me through that.
So before I hired my first groomer, I read this book called From Good to Great, and it's an incredible business book. And it just talks about companies that are good and then the companies that are great. And one of my biggest takeaways from that book was you never expand unless you have the right people to expand with. So before I even think about getting another van, I find the right groomer.
Love it.
That is my number one thing. I'm going to find the right fit for our team.
How?
And that goes into like, we have been fortunate to have groomers come to us, but we have had to go out and like find groomers. But our interview process is pretty extensive. They have a phone interview with me. They have, one with Jordan and I in person, and then I send them on a ride along with my manager. And then we all sit down and we discuss, do we think this person is a good fit? And if they are, then we start training them. And if we're like, okay, this works, then we're going to get another van. Because I'm not going to invest in a van if I don't have the right groomer. And we've been really fortunate. Our system has worked pretty well. I think we've only had to let go of one groomer, right?
Yeah.
One groomer. And everybody else, my first groomer is still with me. She's my manager.
Love that.
So, and she's been with, it'll be 4 years. And so everyone has stayed with us. And so that is like the number one thing, is finding the right people. Because if you don't have the right people, it's not going to work. So
I'll shoot a text to the banker and ask him what rates are.
Okay, so I was wondering, and then I was going to flip that over. I was like, okay, we got that, but at some point, financials come into play, rate, and then so Jordan, I want you to talk a little bit about that and why that again matters. Maybe break that down on like with some real examples, if you can, about like a per dog rate and that sort of stuff. But I also want to know.
Oh, I don't have the Excel sheet in front of me. I can't do it.
Oh, he's got me a full Excel sheet. Oh my god!
I would say that Wagon Tails has a pretty good breakdown.
Okay.
I will, warn people that's probably the best case scenario in terms of a profitability matrix. Like that's if 0 things go wrong, which is not true. Everything can go wrong.
Could you give some expectations on ballparks of like, okay, I've got a van. Let's assume in Tulsa. So like the weather is the same in Tulsa, and it's only got 4 days a week of wear and tear on it. What should I expect for maintenance? What should I expect for gas? What should I expect for supplies?
Yeah.
Did you ask per day or like per month?
However you guys track it. I know I'm kind of putting you guys
Yeah,
on
I
the
do it
spot
all,
here.
but I don't remember. There's a lot of numbers, but like the gas thing, I would say is that's the large. I mean, if you don't have employees, gas is like your largest expense.
Okay.
Repairs and maintenance, that can be, depending on the rig, but I would budget probably $500 a month.
Oh, wow.
Um,
And what's the most common thing that you guys are seeing? Is it,
so with our
tires
things,
or?
no. And then even if it is, a tire is such a small expense. The biggest thing, at least in these types of vans, is a generator.
Okay.
And the older style, they have a newer one now that we have one. We're trying, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, we bought it, so it's not really a trial period, but we're seeing how it goes. But they have gas generators and diesel Onan generators.
Okay.
And for the most part, the diesels are better. I would say the gas can be pretty unreliable and plan on them breaking.
They're finicky, yeah.
Yeah, it's a small, heavy engine. I think it's like 200-300 pounds in the back of the van. And if something goes wrong, it's usually $500 to $1,000 to fix.
Dang.
So
I would say that's probably on the lower end. I would say if you're going into to Cummins to get something fixed, it's around $1,500.
Oh yeah, and that's
Yeah.
assuming too that it's just what you thought is wrong with it, right? I mean, that's something
And
else is wrong, and your down days,
that's the
because
other
of that,
thing.
adding that into the cost as well.
And that can hurt. Once you get more vans, like losing one still hurts, but it doesn't necessarily immediately impact your business.
Yeah,
You can be flexible. You can move groomers around,
into different
days
vans
around,
and stuff. Yeah.
so
which is part of the way, like how we schedule stuff. Like not every groomer is working every day.
And
when go ahead, Dan.
something we do to prevent downtime is we have a spare generator. We have a Predator generator that's at our house, and we can attach it with a what are those things called?
It goes on the back on a hitch.
Yeah, what are they called though? Luggage rack.
Oh,
On a
nice.
luggage rack. And
Yeah.
I mean, you got to turn it on, and it's a little bit louder, and it kind of potentially could look a little tacky, but you're getting your dogs groomed, revenue's still coming in, and my groomers aren't having to reschedule. They're still making money. Everybody's happy. So that was something
That's honestly a good backup. It's
invested in.
It's in between getting a whole nother van and not having any solution at all.
Yeah. Well, some homemade like build outs, they use that generator as their every day.
Mhm.
Right. Meanwhile, you guys just have it as backup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's on, I mean, it
it
has
feels great.
helped us.
Yeah.
Like sometimes they can't get you in for 2 weeks at Cummins. And I'm like, well, that's not going to work. We have to figure something out. And so
Right.
I put hitches on almost all the rigs. I went and took them to U-Haul and had hitches put on all of them. And then that way, if anything happens, we'll just go throw on this other generator. Everyone's still making money. It's a little bit more work, but it ends up working out.
It's a little louder, but
Yeah.
But
Not a
it's
big
a
deal.
small price to pay.
clients don't really. Maybe one complaint, like it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Okay. So I love that you look for groomer first, because I think that is like the one piece that could like kind of like make the puzzle fall apart if you don't optimize for that. And like, honestly, on all points, like make your guys's like, happiness level at work go down, make their happiness level at work go down. Like you always got to find that right piece. On this finance side, it's hard. We never really get, finance pros on here. Jordan's like, he's doubling down on this.
Nobody's ever asking about Excel. This is a new thing.
I mean, I'm just so curious. I've seen that Wagon Tails calculator, and I'm curious with your guys' new vans. Obviously, you've probably got it down to a science now. But do you think in like dogs per day? Like, do you think in, hey, if I know that we've got to make X $1,000 per month for this van to break even, I'm going to work backwards into this and think like, okay, we need to have X amount of dogs. I mean, X amount of dogs per day. Like, are you thinking like that?
No, we think more. It's
revenue.
Yeah, it's more of a revenue. Like the dog thing. Yeah, not really. It's the dollar amount, because you could do 2 big dogs Like you could do, what are the,
You could do 2 extra large doodles, and then it would be the same as like 4 small dogs.
Right.
So like remember that
So
big
what-
sheet
yeah.
thing I was
Yeah.
talking, not sheet, but the dry erase board at the bottom, after I've organized everything, I write what the revenue is.
Okay, nice.
And I do everything I can to make, because we have a certain goal, and I do everything I can to make sure that they're almost even on every single day. And then we have a weekly goal. So if like one day is a little lighter, but this other day is heavier, it makes up, it's fine because we got our weekly goal. So,
That makes
and then that's really good for the groomers too, because
They're motivated.
they're motivated and they kind of know what to expect as far as their paychecks go. There's not this like, what am I going to make?
Yeah,
Like, I try to keep things level.
that makes sense. Do you guys ever worry about like too many small dog days? Because I know it like totally makes sense where it's like, okay, 2 large dogs is the same as 4 small dogs. But in terms of timing, it doesn't always work out like that. Like proportionally, right? It doesn't always work out where 1 big dog takes double as long as 2 small dogs. And so do you ever
Right.
worry about like a whole day stacked of small dogs and then you know your groomer's time is still taken up, but you didn't meet your revenue goal?
So I mean, it's not like this on our website, but I do our rates basically based on time.
Okay.
So so it basically evens out. So to answer your
Okay.
question, no, I'm not too concerned about a bunch of small dogs in a
we'd be
day.
more worried about big dogs. I mean, it's more revenue, but it's a harder dog to groom. They're
Right.
harder to control. It's
Oh,
harder
yeah.
on the groomer itself. Like it's more so like, oh, I have 4 days of big dog. Like we don't do it like that.
Yeah.
Because it can get tough,
Mhm.
you know.
Oh yeah, I mean that's a lot of wear and tear on the body too.
For
Sure.
So
And
you
that's,
probably-
I mean, you know, Dana's like been in the business. That's something we want to focus on. And it's like, it's part of our, I don't know if you'd say it's the business model, but we want the groomers to be at their best. And if they're overworked, they're not going to be part of their best. So that goes into like the 4-day work week.
I love that.
It goes into pricing.
Okay.
Like I'm going to price things where when my groomers go there, they're not resenting being there. They're like, I'm getting paid for this.
Yeah.
I'm getting paid for this.
Yeah.
And I, because I mean, I was an employee for a long time. I've had good employers. I've had not so good employers. I've learned a lot over the years of what to do and what not to do. And I think one of my biggest takeaways from being an employee was you have to price things right for your team. If you want your team to come in and you want them to be happy and motivated and do a good job, even on those hard dogs, you have to price it right. If that dog takes them 2 hours, like it needs to be priced like a 2-hour dog. It doesn't need to be priced like an 1.5-hour dog or an hour dog. You have to price it right.
I like it. I mean, it's aligning incentives, and it goes back to your big board where they can see how much money they're going to make every day or every week, right? And like whether it was arranged like that at first on purpose or not, it breeds transparency, which contributes to trust. They trust you, you guys trust them. They know what you're charging, and I bet there's an open line of communication where if they ever did feel like they got a dog that wasn't worth the price, Dana, they're coming to you and feeling okay talking about that.
100%. I mean, I've had groomers that are like, I know that I said that this was the rate that I think this dog should be. This dog is getting worse. I think it should be this rate. And I'm like, you're the one grooming it. I trust you. And we don't get that a lot. We
Right.
do a pretty good job of setting really, really, really good rates. But if they really come to me and they feel like it needs to go up, I have no problem raising a rate. And we were really fortunate to not have a lot of pushback from clients. If we're honest with them, hey, this dog actually takes us this much longer. Typically when they take us this long, this is how much we charge. We're going to have to charge this going forward. And they're like, thank you for being honest with me. That's fine.
Yeah. Right.
And it's all about the communication. So.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
I know we talked a little bit about the 4-day work weeks. I'm curious what else you guys do to, provide like work-life balance for the groomers. You guys mentioned that that's part of like your model, right? Of keeping groomers happy and keeping them, motivated.
Yeah. I'd say the market is pretty poor when it comes to like treating their employees in terms of like holiday pay,
Sure.
health insurance, pay time off. We do like competitions for like rewards. And a big thing for us too is like we want to be the most credential's not the right word, but most experienced, most, I guess cutting edge is a funny word. But that's where we want to be. I mean, most of our teams actually just got back from Chicago this weekend.
From All-American.
From All-American, learning a bunch of new techniques, certifications, tools. They got new tools, which helps do the grooming.
So you guys budget in like conferences, you budget in getting new tools, you budget in stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's a big priority.
I mean, that's amazing. That's
Yeah.
really
It works multiple ways. It provides like a learning incentive for like the groomers, and it also communicates that, hey, we care about you and we want your growth to keep going. We invest in you as an employee, and they can feel that.
100%.
But honestly, it's content for Instagram. Like they get to see, like clients get to see, they're used to seeing Molly get groomed every week, but now they're getting to see their groomer learning something new or doing something fun. Or like a lot of the stylists got CPR certifications. So it's like a safety deal. I mean, it's just a lot of benefit.
I mean, it's a great trade-off between like a short-term, like short-term pain for you guys of like, okay, we have to pay for all their hotels and travel and stuff like that, right? But for like such a long-term gain of, they are very loyal to, probably to you guys investing in their growth and long-term gain for your clients of, you're right, like the CPR, the added like health and safety factor that probably increases, the repetition of those clients coming back and their loyalty even, right? And so it's kind of like not missing the trees for the forest. You're okay putting up that upfront cost, knowing that it's all going to pay off in the long run.
Yeah, and we try to communicate that and like show clients that's who we are. But like it's one thing to say it, but then for them to see like that reinforcement of, I mean, Dana competed last year. Sort of Dana and then one of our other stylists competed. I think one or two are going to compete this year. So they see that like that's in action. Nice. Other area groomers don't currently do that.
Yeah.
And so they can see the difference as to why, well, you can use this person or you can see what Bathewell is doing.
Right. My ultimate goal, and this is something that I didn't realize was going to be so heartwarming for me, opening a business, is providing these jobs for these stylists, because like they work really, really hard. And so often I see grooming positions as like, there's just a means to an end. Whereas we wanted to provide like an actual career where you can thrive and you can grow. We're looking into possibly doing like 401k retirement type stuff.
Yeah.
Because, we want people to be able to have careers like badly. So
no, you're right. I mean, kind of pulling it away. And that's honestly one of like the biggest stigmas that I think like COVID is actually working in our favor to change in the industry, is that like, I think pre-COVID people looked at it as like maybe looked down upon it obviously more than they should. But I think since COVID, with the explosion of pets and like the explosion of like actually what goes into grooming, I think a lot more people are opening up to how highly skilled the job is and how it can be, and it is a full-time career for a lot of Americans and a lot of people around the world. So I really respect that you guys are putting in all this time and effort to actually treat it. And like you were just saying, Jordan, like act it too, like walk the walk, not only just talking the talk on having you guys send the folks out there and even you, Dana, like competing and stuff like that. You mentioned the 401ks and retirement, but that made me think of, big breaks. And I know you guys were talking about before, Dana, you're pregnant.
I am. Woohoo! Yeah, 31 weeks.
All right. So talk to me about this. I mean, you're still, I would assume, actively involved in the business.
Oh yeah.
How do you plan and prep and then like make sure that the business is still going to be okay while you and Jordan take some probably deserved time off?
Yeah. So we've got a part-time admin assistant who is going to help out quite a bit. I'm still gonna be like, once baby's here, like I'm still gonna like work and have the phone and whatnot, but I'm just not gonna be as active. But ways to prep, we're not getting another van. That is gonna be our way not to prep, because we bought one in June. We got one in June. We're kind of at that end phase of like route building. That's what we call like when we get a new van, it's our route building phase. Like we have all these phases. We're at the end of our route building phase. So we're full. So we're not going to be taking new clients. So yeah, the phone might go off, but I'm not going to be corresponding with potential new clients, giving them the lowdown on how we work and all of this stuff. We'll just be like, we're not taking new clients right now. We don't know when we're taking new clients. I can recommend somebody, or we can put you on the wait list, but I don't know when we're like, I have to be very clear with everybody. It might be 6 months to a year before I reach out, and then some people are like, put me on. And some people are like, give me the referral. So that's kind of, I think, how we're.
Do you get nervous about stepping away, or do you feel confident that you've got, kind of the systems and processes in place?
I will say that I feel confident.
We have a really great team.
Yeah, that's what our team is incredible. I couldn't ask for a better one. We have monthly meetings and they're scheduled every single month. And we all sit down together and we talk about the things that we need to talk about. I get feedback from them to how to make the business better. And when I think about them, sometimes I get a little emotional because I'm like, you all are here doing so, so, so great. And I am so blessed to have this team. And I am so comfortable going into postpartum and this craziness that's going to be, knowing that they can hold down the fort. They know what they're doing. We have processes and procedures for pretty much everything. And I know that if anything crazy happens, we can handle it. So.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Fire me up.
That was like powerful.
Yeah.
Are we in a movie right now?
I do. I really am proud of my team. I think about them and I get.
That was just Alex, there's a person with a cue card behind you.
Yeah, I mean,
you can't see. That
was really good. That
was good.
So.
All right. Well,
I promise it's not my pregnancy hormones. I really do feel
that really fired me up. Honestly, it motivated me. Well, I think we should kind of end it there. I don't know how we get much better with that closing speech. I do want to give you guys a chance to shout out maybe the website and some of your guys' socials. I know you have a Hoppin' Facebook page, just so if anyone wants to see, how you guys are doing stuff like your socials and your branding, pricing, that sort of stuff, they have a chance to go check it out.
Yeah. So if you want to look at our website, I will say that we are in the process of it's completely getting redone. So the website that's there now is the one that we kind of started with, and I've adjusted things as I've gone. But it's almost finished, and it'll have all the groomers on there and stuff. But it's bathewell.com. And then if you want to look at our social media, it's Bathewell Grooming at gmail.com. All the stylists post on there.
That's the username?
That's my email.
Yeah.
Bathewell Grooming. It's Bathewell Grooming is the.
It's not Bathewell Mobile Pet Spa?
Oh, see.
I think it's Bathewell Mobile Pet Spa.
Yeah, you guys got it right. Bathewell Mobile Pet Spa on.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Sweet.
I'm trying to get it to just be Bathewell, but somebody.
I know. So I was going to ask you guys that is, will you make that shift all the way over to just Bathewell?
Well, I've been trying. I wanted it that when I first started the Instagram, and there's somebody that has Bathewell that has they follow 6 people and they don't post anything and they have no followers. And I've emailed or I messaged them and I'm like, hey, do you mind? I'll pay you for this. I just want Bathewell. And I don't know if it's
crickets.
Yeah. So I don't know.
It's all right. I think it works for you guys still. Well, cool. Well, Dana and Jordan, thank you guys so much for coming on. We really appreciate all the knowledge here. And we're rooting for little baby Bathewell to come out.
Yeah. Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And that's the pod.